Do you find that like your creativity? I mean, I know a little bit. Like you're into music and art, right? Videography a little bit. So, do you notice? Is that pretty common amongst chefs? Would you say where like the creative process just extends to different areas?
I don't know. Most of the chefs that I know don't play music. Like the really like exceptional chefs I know don't like play music or engage in other arts that I know of. They're definitely fans of it.
Yeah.
I know Eric from Hen of the Wood is a huge. He's really into music. When they opened their second restaurant or third restaurant, actually, he just put a library of all kinds of vinyl up, and people could just go in and like play whatever they wanted, which is pretty
nice.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is it? Does it help? Like, does playing music help you express yourself in the kitchen or in the menu? Or do you not think? Is it just kind of like?
I don't really think too much about it. Playing music is like, it's an expression, and it's just like, it's trying to get out what's in my head, you know, because like I'll think of a little like musical line or whatever, and then just I want to like express it. I want to hear it,
You think? Do you view? Is it the same way in the kitchen for you? Is it kind of a similar like release?
I think I approach it differently. I think it's more, these things. I guess, I mean, there's similarities for sure. Because once like with music, once you know the basics and like you understand chord structure and a little bit of music theory, you can just kind of fit within those veins. And then maybe you throw in like, like there's borrowed chords in some songs. So you borrow a chord from another key. And if I was going to kind of compare the two, I would say that is something we do because it's like, I talk with Derek, my sous chef, about this all the time, or chef de cuisine, whatever you want to call him. He'll say like, "Oh, do we want to do this?" And I'll say, "Yeah, but we got to make it interesting." So there needs to be some kind of spin on it that makes it not, I think we're going to do like beef stroganoff next week, but we're going to do something to make it not beef stroganoff, not just beef stroganoff. That's kind of the way we approach it.
Yeah. Yeah, is it hard? It's like music. It's hard to be original in music, especially nowadays. Depending on what you want to do, I guess.
There's some lawyer out there I think he put together there's a musician that put together every possible combination of notes. So that the legal process for like copyright laws would be null and void. They're working on that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 12 notes on a scale,
right?
In Western music. So how many ways can you put that together?
Yeah. Ed Sheeran famously had the court case a few years ago, and like he got on the stand and with his guitar and played like all of these different songs using the same chords that were in his song that he was accused of, stealing from somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, like the 1, 4, and 5 chord, like every song is that, or like there's like they call it the sad female songwriter progression is like 6, 5, 4 or something like that. It's like in a minor key.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's tons of music theory videos out there that explain all that.
Yeah,
I dove really deep on that during COVID.
Yeah,
because there was nothing else to do. So,
so is it if it's hard to stay original with music, is it hard to stay original in the kitchen?
That's a tough question. I borrow ideas from a lot of people and a lot of places that I go to, but I'll try and put my own spin on it, so it's not like an exact copy of whatever I saw.
Yeah.
That being said, like sometimes it's very similar. Good idea is a good idea, no matter where it comes from. But we do try to keep it as original as possible. We're definitely like unique for this area. Cooking over the wood fire. But there's also like a lot of tradition. Like food is steeped in a lot of tradition, and I think it's important to respect that too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's interesting to think about. Like the Devin from Brick and Barrel out in Beeville, he was fascinated by food history, and just like history in general and how food, tied into it,
Yeah.
apart from. And so it was, he loved diving into those sort of things and trying to make that connection. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, I think it's, I've always had the opinion like there's no new idea, right? I stole it from Ecclesiastes, right? Nothing new under heaven. And when I read that, I thought, well, maybe that's the same for ideas, Like, yes, I have this idea today, and maybe it's unique in a certain way based on technology and, technological advancements, but I'm sure someone throughout human history has had this similar idea.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if you've ever experimented with psychedelics, like, that, like everything's been thought of.
Yeah, it all exists in the universe.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised how many people when I say to them, when I talk about Eden and I say it's 100% wood-fired oven or wood-fired kitchen, how many of them just kind of look at me blankly like, what is that?
You mean pizza? That's like the number one quote.
Really?
Oh, you guys do pizzas here? Well, sometimes for staff meal, but yeah.
And so they look at me blankly like that, like, why is that a big deal? And then I immediately followed up with, that means they have to like build a bonfire. They have to build a fire every night that they want to cook food. And they still look at me strange. And then I pull up my phone and I show them either a picture or that video. I snagged a quick cell phone video the other day that's like 8 seconds long of just like panning across the line. And I showed a couple people that over the weekend. They're like, "Oh, that's wild! I didn't know that those places existed."
I get that too. Like even from, so I got invited to go down to the Certified Angus Beef, their headquarters in Ohio, and do like this it was a super cool class. We got to hang out with a couple animal scientists. We broke down a whole cow. We learned a lot about beef production. But I was there with I think there was 18 other chefs, maybe 20 other chefs. I was like, oh, yeah, my kitchen's like totally wood-fired, and they didn't get it either until I finally showed them a picture of we have 2 Argentinian-style grills. We have this 2 different kinds of ovens.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. I mean, it's, yeah. I guess, I don't see too much of that. Like, I follow a lot of restaurants in New York City and stuff, and there's not many that I follow that cook, on, open flame.
There's a couple. There's Peasant is in the village, in the West Village, I think. They're an Italian restaurant. I'm jealous of their oven.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Barbuto used to have a really nice oven, too, that was like 2 layers. They lit a fire on the bottom, and then it heated up the base, so you could make a pizza, and then it would circulate over the top. You get that convection, too.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool. The only other one I've been to that was totally wood-fired was Lania Brava in Chicago. And that was a super cool experience.
Yeah.
They sunk a lot of money into that place. It's beautiful.
Is it hard? I mean, I know we were just talking about inspiration and creativity. And granted, we've got the power of the internet and cookbooks and history of phenomenal chefs and all those things. But is it hard to find creativity is it hard to find new interesting things that people are doing in food?
I don't know. I've been focused more on cocktails lately.
Oh, really?
Honestly, yeah. New and interesting. I haven't seen anything new and interesting in a while that really blew my mind. People are putting together some cool stuff. Like we had a couple of years ago, we went to a place called Ada in Long Island City, and the chef there made this biryani that was mind blowing. And the creative part of that was that he actually put the naan over the top of the bowl. So when you broke into it, it was just all the smells.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really, really wonderful, wonderful dish. I don't know. I think a lot of people are going back to their roots.
Yeah.
Last time we were in New York, we went to Ilili, I think was the name of the restaurant. It was a Lebanese place.
Okay.
And the server came up to us and she was like, just so you know, we serve traditional Lebanese food. Don't expect
that's awesome.
Your regular Americanized version of it. And so we got kibbeh, however you pronounce it. That was interesting. It was a lot on the palate.
Yeah.
But really, really good. You could imagine being in Lebanon and eating that. Like it's just like all the flavors together.
Yeah.
Like raw onion and yeah, it was intense, but also like really wonderful.
Yeah. I know a part of it's just research, but I always, whenever I go to like a restaurant that serves like an ethnic food that I'm not familiar with, which is pretty much all of them, it's like great. I think it's delicious, but depending on what I get, but I don't know if it's authentic. I don't know if it's traditional. I don't know if it's like, this is the American version. Like this is the version that they made to make the upstate New Yorker enjoy it or not, or if I went to the streets of whatever country that I would find the exact same thing.
Well, I mean, what is authentic at the end of the day? Like everybody's grandma made it different. So authentic to that place, authentic to that family. Like what you listen to people like argue over Italian food, like what is gravy? Everybody's grandma made it different,
Right.
So
yeah, I've had that argument about Mexican food. People are like, oh, it's the best Mexican I've ever had for places around here, which is always untrue. And then I'm like, well, okay, but Mexico is a large country, and there's I'm sure just like Italy, like different parts of the country eat different types of food and have different things that they enjoy, recipes and dishes and preparation. So what is it? And I mean, obviously, we don't have like. I would say we probably don't have like real Mexican food here in upstate New York, or definitely not in Syracuse.
I mean, I've had some good Mexican food here.
Really?
Yeah, I have a friend. She brought me these Beija Tacos one day from somebody that has a small business, and I'm spacing the name.
Is it Beija Queso Tacos?
I have to get back to you on that.
If it's the lady I'm thinking of, she was operating out of her kitchen for like 2 or 3 years, and she would just deliver them, and you like had to Venmo her and message her on Facebook to get them. And then in May, she opened up inside the Salt City Test Kitchen, and so now she's doing 2 days a week there.
Okay.
I had them; they're absolutely phenomenal. She's from Jalisco, Mexico, which is a region where tequila's from.
Yep.
And where birria was invented. And her family moved to Los Angeles when she was a little girl, and her dad was known in their neighborhood in LA as like the king of birria. She grew up watching him make it. So she now makes birria tacos here, and she makes her own tortillas for every order. So
it's very likely the same woman.
Wildly amazing, like so good.
Yeah, they were good like cold an hour later.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah.
I was really grateful to get those.
Yeah.
I was having a tough day that day, so.
Yeah, I think so like those I would consider, I understand like authentic to who, but other than that, I don't know, man. It's I'm not on like on a quest to find like the most authentic things, but there's certain things with all the food that I eat, and I'd say I'm pretty much aware of 90% of the restaurants and what they do in Syracuse, and then like the immediate surrounding area that I've kind of I've kind of like written it off to a certain extent. Most of the places, like, all right, I know them, I know what they do, I know the mindset of the people making the food, and I'm trying to find something better.
Well, I mean, it kind of like begs the question, what is authentic, right? So like, authentic to us is sourcing from New York State and, doing the best we can with the ingredients that we can get here.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think it's authentic if you put your heart and your soul into it and really like work hard at it and try to perfect it.
Yeah.
And you do that over a long period of time, like then you're creating something. You're creating something that's real. You're not going to convince me that Chipotle is authentic Mexican food, because it's not, because it's a corporation.
Yeah.
But I think if a bunch of individuals get together and they're really trying hard to make something special out of, what's going on in their community, that's authentic to me.
Yeah.
And that's where it stems from. You look at like Italian food, like the North is like eggs and milk because that's what they grew. And then, Sicily, fish and tomatoes.
Right.
So that's kind of, that's where those cuisines came from.
Yeah.
So that is authentic to Italy. So like, we're just trying to do that with New York State, whatever that means.
When you say authentic to the person, like, are they making the best thing? I do have a lot. I love Syracuse and, the food and the people here, but I'm also incredibly critical of it. I think more so now than I was like 3 years ago, but because I don't see as many interesting things happening in food anymore. I do love seeing people, like, there's this guy who has this thing on Instagram. It's called Mojo's. He's doing vegan food, which, I could. The food's good, but I'd rather have hamburger. But anyways, he's doing vegan food out of his kitchen, super illegally. Only sells on Instagram. Deliver, like, I think he only does a day a week. I think Mondays right now. He'll, like, last week it was this vegan hamburger burrito. This week it was curried fried cauliflower and fries. And so it's only through Instagram. You have to DM him. You have to either pay him cash or Venmo him. And, he'll tell you, all right, I'll be there around noon. And he shows up with your food and hands it off, and that's it.
It's an interesting business model. Yeah. I hope the health department's not listening.
I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I hope it's really good food. The wrap that I had last week, it was good. I enjoyed it. But I mean, obviously, I don't want somebody doing that and, like, delivering Tostino's pizza rolls out, to the public.
Yeah.
But, somebody who I think is, like, trying to take a swing, doesn't have the money to, like, get into a place, wants to make their food, and is doing it, like, really differently. I love that.
I mean, it's a big capital investment to open a brick and mortar restaurant. I think we spent almost $750,000.
Wow.
Building our place out. And it was already zoned to be a restaurant. I mean, we did put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
But it's a big capital investment. And whether or not you're going to get a return on that, like, we're lucky. We're 4 years in. Most restaurants don't make it that far. So I was like, fingers crossed. I hope we're going to make it to year 5, because that's, like, supposed to be, when you figured out if you're going to make it or not. But yeah, we're doing pretty well with it. It's a lot to just put that money up and then hope you make it back.
Yeah.
And the margins are so small, especially now. Like, the price of everything has gone up.
Yeah.
And I look at our menu prices. I'm like, that doesn't look fair, but it's what we have to charge, because I'm used to it being a little less expensive. But yeah, we have to charge what we have to charge, just because the price of everything has gone up.
How does that fit into the world of, like, fine? I'm gonna say fine. I'm gonna say better food. I won't say fine food. But how does that fit into the world of, like, better food in Syracuse, New York today? Because, like, I've said this. I've texted to you. I said it on Friday. I've said it to, I think, anybody that listens to me, that you're, like, the last one in the city of Syracuse. Abioko's still great food. Love Anthony and Noah. But obviously, half the menu isn't what it used to be when Alex and Lauren were there just a few short months ago. Still, I'll go in there and support them all day long. I still think Noah makes the best pizza, or my favorite pizza in the city.
You haven't tried Derek's pizza yet.
I haven't. You're right. I'll have to get invited to staff meal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, you are the last one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a scale. It's not black and white. Like, we're great and you're not. Like, it's obviously we're trying to do great things. But I think a lot of those other restaurants are too. So there's a sliding scale. Like, I hope we're near the top of that.
Yeah.
We work really hard to try to be near the top of that. But it's disappointing to see, those other restaurants that I think were exceptional.
Yeah.
Like, the DeFees and the St. Urbans kind of go, and obviously Alex and Lauren. I understand why they made their decisions, but I am disappointed that there's not a better, higher end food scene here.
Yeah. I was thinking about this. My wife and I were talking about it Saturday, and Deefy, I believe they were still open. Yeah, they were, because they were all before the pandemic. So at one point, Syracuse had St. Urban, Defee, you, and Alex and Lauren and Amano all at the same time.
Yeah.
4 exceptional restaurants, all I would sort of put into like the similar category of people who know what they're doing and are interesting and are putting out interesting food, different from the mass, not trying to appeal to the masses, and not necessarily like, oh, well, they're fine dining or anything like that, but just exceptional food. So we had those four, all four of you in that in my category of that, but all still doing four very different things.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the two closest were Defee and St. Urban, but still wildly different approaches to it. And I mean, I'd probably murder someone right now to have, all four back open. Yeah.
That would be wonderful. I mean, I want a place to go out to eat, on a Friday when I can actually get away from the restaurant. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to go and experience something like St. Urban or, go right down the street to Defee.
Yeah.
But again, like, I understand why the people that were running those places decided to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I mean,
right.
It's Syracuse is a tough sell.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, especially when you're in it, when you're used to being in a competitive market, like Alex was in Philly, like Jared was in New York, to a certain extent, like I was in Vermont, for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like New York and Philly have a lot of people, so that makes it a competitive market.
Right.
Vermont has no people, which makes it a competitive market because you're trying to get the couple people that are there to actually come into your restaurant. So when you're used to being in that kind of competitive market, and then you come here and there's like really not a whole lot of competition, it doesn't seem like the media is really behind you as much as they could be. It's a little disheartening.
Yeah.
So, and if you want a Michelin star, you got to be in a city.
Right.
If you want a James Beard Award, like you look at, I think the 10 semifinalists last year, 10, 12 semifinalists last year, 3 of them were outside of New York. Because New York is its own.
Yeah. Ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think Syracuse is such a tough sell for that? Besides, population.
Well, I mean, why do people live here? Like, I know I live here because of my family. Mm-hmm. I would still live in Vermont if it wasn't for that. Mm-hmm. You look at even like Utica. Utica has a great food scene. You got Modus, you got Taylor and the Cook, Ocean Blue to a certain extent. I think the people that live there because they want to be near the Adirondacks. Mm-hmm. Syracuse is it's a drive from the Adirondacks. It's, school system's not fabulous. It's can be kind of dangerous at times. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a tough sell to some people.
Mm-hmm. That's why you think it's, what makes it so hard for restaurants like yourself? I mean, you all, like you said, you're approaching 5 years and, doing good, doing well. What makes it so difficult for some of these restaurants to stick around, like Alex and Lauren, or I know that, I guess maybe I'm answering my own question right now. It's tough to it is kind of tough to have this full conversation about those 3 other restaurants because they all had different reasons, Like I know Alex and Lauren, I'm friends with them and have spoken about this plenty of times. And I know part of the reason why they wanted to get out, I guess, is maybe that's not the most proper, best way to phrase it. But part of their frustration, I think, with the local restaurant scene was people who just didn't get what they were doing. Customers who would still come in and say, "Hey, wait, where's the chicken riggies?" And I want chicken parm and veal parm, and why aren't those things on the menu?
And there's some of that. Like whenever somebody asks me for A1 at the restaurant, I want to bang my head against the wall. It just is what it is.
Do you get that a lot?
A1 and ranch.
Really?
And I would go across the street and grab ranch from the Evergreen if they actually made it, but they don't. So, we do our best to appease everybody.
Yeah.
We will grab Tabasco from Maxwell's, just ask if we can borrow it, or But yeah, it makes me want to bang my head against the wall. There's already sauce on the steak. Just eat it the way it is.
I was listening to, I forget if it was Seth Goden. I think it was Seth Goden. And he was talking about, it was one of his YouTube podcasts, and he was talking about, I forget what the point of his story was, but he was saying that him or a friend of his would always go to this one restaurant down the street with family, and let's just say for argument's sake it was him. He would always go to this restaurant with his family down the street, and he's a vegetarian, and so whenever he would go to the restaurant, he would say, can I get this dish, but I don't want them, like, maybe it's the steak and root vegetables, but I don't want the beef. I'm a vegetarian, so can you just, like, put more vegetables on the plate or whatever the case is? And he said the first 2 or 3 times they would accommodate and there would be no issue. But then as the restaurant got busier and more popular, he went in there and asked for the same thing. The chef came out of the kitchen and said, thank you so much for your business on your last few visits. I think that the restaurant down the street that's a vegetarian restaurant is better suited to your needs. I think you should go there from now on. And he said it, Seth was saying this in like a positive light, like, as a business, you should know kind of who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah.
And focus in on those things instead of trying to like necessarily change and appeal to the masses. How do you feel about that though when it comes to like your restaurant?
Well, I think there's different tiers. I mean, when you're looking at like, let's take Tully's for example. Like Tully's is Tully's. They're likely not gonna go out of their way to accommodate you, like in the sort of way that we would. If you want ranch dressing, yes, I will look around the city for ranch dressing for you because we're focused on like the higher end of hospitality and what that actually means. It's just like knowing what the guest wants, trying to anticipate what the guest wants, and then delivering on that. But there's different tiers of rest. Like I said, it's not black and white. There's a big scale in there. So it just depends on how far up that scale you want to go, and what your ultimate goal is.
Yeah. What is your ultimate goal with Eden? Do you think?
To make people happy. I like happy guests. I like working the front of the house now. I've been bartending a little bit more since Keenan left. Helping serve tables, actually getting a chance to interact with people, and that's wonderful. Like when you get the feedback, that immediate feedback of like, oh my God, everything was great. Thank you so much. It's awesome. It's a great feeling. That's why we work the long hours.
Yeah, for sure. Was that hard to step out from the kitchen and be in the front of house? Like, in my head, I immediately go to, I would now be trying to manage both, like be in the front of house, but also looking back at the kitchen, especially at Eden where it's right there, and like, why is this taking so long? Or that isn't exactly how I would have done it, sort of a mindset.
I do manage both, and I can step up to the pass, and Derek's just a wonderful human being, and he's a great compliment to our restaurant. I don't worry about things with him. I know that he's going to do his absolute best, and he might come up with something that I didn't think of in the middle of service and just implement it. And if it looks cool and I'm sure it tastes good, then I'll just run with it. But he's amazing. I mean, during Parents' Weekend, we had like a little lull in business, and there was a lady that was sick, and he just made her chicken soup. Because she really wanted soup. So he was like, all right, I'm just going to make you chicken soup from scratch. Like, here you go. Enjoy.
That's wild.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's a great asset to the team.
Yeah. What's that like for Parents' Weekend? I have to imagine for a restaurant like yourself, it has to like kind of feel good to have like people that are from bigger cities coming in who are maybe more understanding of what you're doing or like have seen it before. Yeah.
I mean, Parents' Weekend, we always book it like a few months out, and we have certain parents that know that now. There's one guy, Freddie, he's from LA. He owns a restaurant there. And he'll book, like, he comes for Parents' Weekend, he books Graduation Weekend. Or, well, not this year, but next year he will. But he comes for, like, when they drop the kids off, he'll book Parents' Weekend.
Yeah.
They get it. They really enjoy it. They think it's unique. Freddie's a great guy. He brought us a bottle of 95 Opus One. Last time he came up.
Wow.
It's like an $800 bottle.
That's quite a gift.
Yeah. Just to for us to try because he loves our restaurant, and he loves being able to come there and have a good time and enjoy with his family. Yeah, we have a lot of great guests, a lot of repeat guests for those special weekends for SU.
Yeah.
It's stressful though because we'll overbook it a little bit and tell people, this is weather dependent. If you can sit outside, then we'll allow it. But if it's 35 degrees and snowing, you're probably not going to want to have dinner outside. Yeah, but and unfortunately they fall like in those shoulder seasons where like it's kind of hit or miss. Like I think last year November 3rd was Parents Weekend this year. I think last year it was 65 degrees, which is totally fine. But this year it was like 40 something, and people still sat out there with their jackets on and had a nice time.
I was thinking about that the other day, or like the weekend after, because I've heard from a lot of people how busy they were. I mean, obviously downtown is packed, and even the outline restaurants. I mean, out in Baldwinsville, they get people that are in town for Parents Weekend and for those big SU events. I don't know what that number is of how many parents and family members come in that weekend. I don't even know what the student population is up at Syracuse to be able to like kind of roughly double that. But let's just say it's 10,000 people.
I'm sure it's more than that.
Okay. So it's wild. Like I was thinking to myself, okay, what would happen if we had that many people just here in Syracuse all the time? Would the economy be that much better? I mean, obviously they're here on the weekend and like, they're staying in hotels and booking flights and renting cars. And I mean, we're shut down for the season with the food tours, but I got, 6 people that booked food tours the night before on, Friday night for a tour the next morning, for Parents Weekend. And I had to cancel them because I didn't have anybody to give the tour. But I was thinking about that. Like, what if Syracuse had that increased population? How much better would the scene and our economy be?
Well, we're going to find out, right? Micron's the big savior of Central New York. I think that, I mean, there's two things about that I think are important to realize. And one of them is that those people are not home. Mm-hmm. So they're out doing so. They're not obviously they can't cook in their hotel room.
Yeah.
So that's one part. And two is that they're in a new place, so they're just trying to explore, what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if you just increase the population 10,000 people, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. But 10,000 tourists does make a difference. Like Vermont is totally based on tourism.
Yeah.
I think one of the restaurants I worked at between Christmas week and President's week, we did 70% of our business for the year.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
So that's tourism is people spend money when they're traveling.
It's not because of tourism, but it's the same thing with us with the Eat Local card. We sell 90% of them from Black Friday to Christmas Day. I've got to say that I was surprised with this is the first year doing the food tours, and I know I brought that one group in that one day before you guys were even open. I'm floored at how many people come to Syracuse as tourists throughout the summer who have zero connection to Syracuse. They're not even coming in for a specific event. I mean, we didn't give that many tours this year, maybe 150 people. Maybe not that many. Maybe it was 75 people that came through that we did tours for this summer. But I would say a solid half of them were tourists to the area who were just here just because, like they were vacationing in Syracuse or in Central New York, for a week. And that absolutely floored me. I never thought that Syracuse would be. I'm sure a lot of them that we talked to, like they were spending like 2 days in Syracuse and then going to Skaneateles or Ithaca or wherever. But it was still very surprising to me how many people are coming through the city.
Well, I mean, there is the Finger Lakes, so there's that whole wine region, which is an important wine region in America, in the world. And there are cool things to do here. I mean, it is pretty.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I woke up this morning like super early, saw the sunrise, and I was like, oh, Syracuse is all right. Just had that feeling, like it's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is.
So there are parts of Syracuse that are beautiful. And I don't think that we should forget that when we're talking about all the it's easy to be negative. There's Green Lakes and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Tully and that valley, the Labrador unique natural area.
Yeah, for sure.
I
think
always get a kick out of that side whenever I drive by.
I think Central New York is a great area to live and raise a family for sure. But I do think it's important to get out of Syracuse. Like traveling this year, I've been from Buffalo, Rochester, Sackett's Harbor, Binghamton, New York City, and a lot of places in between, and to visit different restaurants and go out to eat. And just for your awareness of food, it's so important to get out of Syracuse. No matter where you live, it's important to get out of your hometown and just experience those different foods, because there's some people out there that I've never met people with such passion for food before. This kid was 32, Luis, who owns Peels on Wheels in Rochester, a pizza shop. I mean, I've had this year alone. I've had pizza. I haven't had every pizzeria, but I've probably had 50 different pizzas, 50 from 50 different pizzerias in New York State this year. This is the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
4 different styles. He did a Sicilian, a Grandma, a New York, and a Detroit, and I got to try all 4 of them in one day. And I've never had anything like it before. And his passion for everything, it was absolutely crazy. Really, really great. He's just an hour away.
It is great when you meet those people that are like culinary professionals and they're just really passionate about.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just one thing. Like, well, I mean, I guess Yemen was passionate about a lot of pastry stuff.
Yeah.
But just to sit down and talk with him about starter and fermentation, or even Tim from Buried Egg Corn.
Yeah.
Just to for him to rattle off the Brettanomyces and this yeast and that yeast, and you can tell he's really passionate about it, and that's the cool part about the culinary industry.
Yeah.
Is that you really can be impassioned and authentic.
Yeah. I think I always have to remind myself that success is not 5 locations of your restaurant and, a Porsche, right? Success is whatever you set your goal to be. And so for some people, success in the restaurant industry could be a small shop and you sell 200 pizzas a night and you're done. You close because that's all you made. And, for others, it's, I want to own 6 restaurants in Westcott, right? So it just depends on who you are and what your goals are.
I mean, do you want to be Daniel Hume from 11 Madison Park, or do you want to be Danny Meyer and own Shake Shack?
Yeah.
They started together. Danny had a different vision.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he makes a lot more money than Daniel. But, Daniel's probably really passionate about what he does. I've never met him.
Yeah. What's your vision? I mean, not vision, but what is your hope for Eden? Is it to make it to year 5 and kind of get over that hump and sort of, exist and be able to push, kind of keep Syracuse relevant? Is it to, kind of have this and then see what happens down the road? Is it to open 10 Edens across the country?
I don't think I want to open 10 Edens. I think that would put me in my grave. Right now, the short-term goals are, there are some things I want to fix with the restaurant. I want to change the lighting. We're going to buy another wine fridge this year. It's just to make small improvements. So we're going to buy a wine fridge. We're probably going to bring the wine list international instead of just New York. We're going to still focus on New York, but there's an opportunity there that I think we're missing. After 4 years of being told you got to have something besides New York wine, I'm finally getting it. And my business partners are funny. They're like, "You've won this battle. Why are you giving it up now?" Because I won it.
And because there's no one else in Syracuse that's doing the alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with St. Urban closing, that leaves a huge hole in the market. And I'd like to try out some French wines too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna improve the wine list, improve the wine storage, change the lighting up a little bit. There's a couple other projects I want to work on. And then we have some ideas for the upstairs of the restaurant, maybe a date night, cooking class kind of thing, which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then maybe we expand. If I can get everything to the point where I don't have to be there on a daily basis to manage any of it, and I can just come in once a week and not worry about, is the trash taken out or, the little things. If I can get to the point where the restaurant's managed without me needing to put more that much input into it, then we'll consider doing something maybe somewhere else or opening like maybe a really nice bar.
Yeah.
With like, burgers and sandwiches and stuff like that.
That's cool. All right. So if you could, there's a couple questions I had, but if you could change one thing or not change, if you could add one thing to the local restaurant scene next, you don't have to own it. You don't have to manage it or anything like that. But like, man, just even as from a consumer standpoint or industry professional, what would you hope to have different or be added?
I mean, what I would really like to see is more small mom and pop shops doing like just what they do really well. If you're going to open a taco place, I mean, not to knock Exo Taco, but like if you're going to open like that lady that was from Jalisco, like open a taco shop that just kills it. Open a Korean barbecue that is like just on point and it's like family run, small, not like blown out and to the point where they can barely handle what's going on. That just like the focused like small restaurants that are doing great things. You look at great food cities like Portland, Maine's a great food city. You have restaurants like Duck Fat, even Tide Oyster Company. They're small and they're hyper focused on what they're doing and they're doing it really well. And I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And also now we need a modern French place. Yeah. Because both of them closed.
Yeah. I know you got to get going soon. So, but what are the places? What are the places you eat at during the week?
I have Sunday, Monday off. So, Masho. I went to. Is it Mr. Noodle and Mrs. Dumpling?
Yeah.
I ordered all of the appetizers on that menu and ate them by myself one day.
Was it good?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex and Lauren said it was good, but I never went.
I'm not sure if they make it there. I think it probably comes in prepackaged.
Yeah.
It would appear that way to me. But they might. It would be really cool if they did. Yeah, Syracuse could use a really good dim sum place too. Focused on dim sum with a little cart that they wheel around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dim sum is different, but there's one place I haven't been to, and I'm curious to find out if there's others. There's one place over Fayette Street, East Fayette, and there's a Chinese place and a Korean place. I haven't been to the Korean place yet, but Tim and Crystal said that it's really good. They've been there a few times, but I forget, it's like Old something. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but cafe, Chinese place in East Fayette, hole in the wall. I think there's only one employee that speaks English in there, and it's expensive, but authentic Chinese food.
Probably the best you're going to get in the city.
I'm the only white guy that's in there, one of the few times I've been in, and they had pork intestine on the menu that I got, and it was so freaking good. I mean, it was absolutely delicious. But the Korean place next to it, I want to go check out because I've heard really great things about it. Okay. But I'm curious if I wonder if how many of those other little hole in the wall places exist. Maybe I don't know if there's anything up on the hill or not, but that exists around town that I've never heard of,
I would love to know more about that, and I had a conversation with Jared Bevente and Charlie Miller about that, like the food writing, just like highlighting those places.
Yeah.
A lot of the articles we see, and I understand why they write what they write, because they want clicks.
Yeah.
But I would love to see more like, this tiny little restaurant is doing amazing intestine.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't get a lot of clicks,
no.
But
because I posted about that pork intestine dish and nobody liked it. Nobody liked that.
But presenting it in a way that gets people interested.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to see the media in this town like kind of back up the things that are wonderful, instead of just like, you know, this place closed, this place is opening. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of seems like the bare minimum. Like I'd like to just see more. And you know, we talked about it, and I think that we're gonna work together on something at some point.
That's cool.
I hope to.
Yeah.
But you know, I also get where they're coming from. Like, they need ad money to keep their
Right.
newspaper afloat, and newspapers are a dying industry. So
Yeah. Yeah. Although I do feel like things are switching. Maybe it's just I have a different focus. I do feel like things are going. Hopefully, at least I hope they are. From what I feel to like more longer form content in all areas, and hopefully maybe less clicky. I don't know. I just feel that way.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. If I'm gonna listen to a podcast, I listen to 3-hour podcasts. You know, it's Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, Huberman.
Yeah.
You know, those are the ones that I'm interested in, because I want to get down to like the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
If I'm interested in something, it's like if I search something on YouTube, like I'm trying to learn something, I'm gonna click on the longest video first, and then kind of go back from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've been doing that with trying to figure out Detroit pizza right now, and I've only baked 2, and I still don't have it figured out. Well, listen, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, no problem.
And everybody who's listening or watching, go check out Eden in Hanover Square in Syracuse. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thank you.